When you don't have much, you have faith. This is something that Padre Abdias said back in 2018 about the community at St. Raymond's and how they approached life. This picture shows Padre Wolver, who is the new priest that took over in February for St. Raymond's. To get to St. Raymond's, first you have to take a flight to Guatemala City. This shows it's about a 6-hour flight. That's if you can get a direct flight. Most flights stop somewhere in Texas. This picture here shows us as we all were first arriving into Guatemala after we'd kind of trickled through security and customs and everything. The very first night that we were there, we stayed. Missions International set us up at a retreat center so that we could have all of the priests come in. We could have breakfast with them. So these are some pictures from the retreat center where we stayed that first night. It was about an hour and a half from the airport. This is the next morning meeting up at the retreat center. This shows the 4 of us who traveled, and then Padre Abdias is in the red shirt. He is the one who will be coming in September, and then Padre Wolver is the new priest. As we left the retreat center and headed towards our sister parish, Padre Wolver took us downtown Guatemala City, which is the capital city, to see the National Cathedral and the Presidential Palace and do a little sightseeing. These are some pictures from inside the National Cathedral. They are celebrating the 500th anniversary of the first Mass being said in Guatemala. So that's what the 500 there on the back of the altar stands for. From Guatemala City to St. Raymond's, or to San Carlos Alzatate, which is where St. Raymond's is located, is what Google says is a 3-hour drive. It usually takes about 4 to 5. There is no real good direct route. This is the path that you take. It does go through Jalapa, which you can see as noted as one of the bigger cities. That is the diocesan seat for St. Raymond's Parish. The last hour of the drive is on a completely dirt road. These are some pictures of our trip from when we stopped for lunch. This was the first view of the town coming into San Carlos Alzatate. There are hills all around it, so it's kind of nestled down into the valley. So you can see kind of an aerial view of it, and then the picture that we took from the car. This is an aerial view of the church complex, the parish hall, which is currently under construction. They're trying to expand it to create more room. So now it doesn't quite look like this from a bird's eye view, but this kind of gives you an idea. The church is in the front. You have the rectory, the parish offices, and then what Phil called the tortilla making area, and a courtyard out front. These are some pictures from inside the rectory living space. The picture with Mary in it is the open courtyard area. And then behind it is what used to be a little chapel. It's now the sacristy area. Because they're redoing the parish garden, their version of the garden level, they've moved a lot of that stuff into the rectory space. And that's where it's all being housed right now. The wooden doors that you can see with the suitcases, that is the living room, and then there's a couple bedrooms and bathrooms on either side of the living room. The bottom left-hand picture shows the space where you walk into the kitchen, and then you can walk into the parish offices and the outdoor storage area. The picture on the bottom left-hand side is to the right of the picture in the bottom right-hand side. So I know that's a little confusing. You can see the rows in the bottom right-hand side, or you can see the rows in the bottom of the picture on the bottom right, and then there's the hallway that would lead to where the bottom left-hand picture is. This shows the dining room, kitchen area, and then the wash area that was at the back of that space. So they do all of their laundry, all of their dishes and everything by hand in this area. The picture with the lady in the teal shirt squatting down, that's what Phil calls the tortilla making area. This is where they prepare all of the food that is served after parish events. And it kind of towards the front. There's another picture that'll show it a little bit better, or show the exterior portion of it a little bit better. The first night that we were there, we did get to meet all the different community groups that help run the parish. They all had different signs for us. They all came up and told us a little bit about what they do and how they help Padre Wolver run the parish and help assist. So these are some pictures of the exterior of the church. The white facade building with the two blue pop-up tents is the exterior. The picture on the left-hand side is standing at the front door looking down the main aisle of church. All of the banners at the top will change colors depending on the liturgical season. And then you can see the ambo. And then the statue is a depiction of St. Raymond's. So this is the exterior parts of church here that you can see. The brick building is the parish offices, and then not the arch doorway, but the other doorway that's right along the edge of that photo is where you go into the tortilla making area, which is the other picture that you see on the top. So the door that you can see would actually be to the back right. It's not the best way to describe all of this, but that kind of gives you an idea. The bottom two pictures are showing the construction and the expansion of their parish gathering space, their parish garden level. These are some pictures of some of the cornfields and coffee bean fields that we saw. They are kind of everywhere throughout the parish, throughout all of the space that they can find. Everything is planted by hand. There are no big combines or anything like that. It's all done with hand tools. Corn is for eating, a little bit for sale. Coffee is definitely for sale. It's one of their main money sources. These are some pictures of Padre Wolver giving a lecture to the Aldea Eucharistic ministers, the Aldea leaders. These leaders come into town once a month, I think is what he said, to meet with him and receive a lecture so that they can then have services that are not mass. So there are 33 outlying Aldea communities, each with their own church, and Padre gets to them when he can, but he can't always be there for every single day. So the Eucharistic ministers help facilitate that, and they get their message from him and then expound upon it. While we were there, we did get to go to one of the outlying communities, and on our way there, we stopped to have a wedding ceremony for an elderly couple that was homebound, that lived pretty rural. So you can see pictures of us walking to their house, the exterior of the house, and then some pictures from inside the house. The bride was 85, and they were just finally getting married within the Catholic Church, despite having been together for about 75 years and having 14 children, 9 of whom were still living. This is the area where we lived while we were with our sister parish in St. Raymond's. This is a structure that is not run by St. Raymond's, but is run by another organization, religious organization, not church organization, religious organization. It is a live-in facility for individuals suffering from mental illness whose families cannot take care of them. They have capacity for 40 residents, but they only have staff currently for 14. So this is where 14 residents. So this is where we stayed while we were there. This shows you the living space and the bathroom that would be at the back end of the living space. On the other side of this partial wall is another set of beds. It can sleep 10 total. They had a nice bed set up for Phil and I since we were married. These are pictures of the bands that played. They let us play the instruments too. So that's a picture of John there in the bottom right-hand corner, but played at the masses. The xylophone-looking instrument is called a marimba. You can dance the marimba while playing the marimba and to marimba music. So it's a type of dance, a type of instrument, and a type of music. And it is considered the national dance music instrument of Guatemala. The picture with the young group is a tech, so Teens Encounter Christ mass that we were at, and that was the band that was playing at that mass. While we were there, we had several parades through town with lots of signage. People were very, very overjoyed to come out and see us, meet us, help us, walk us to church and be part of the community. Lots of signs, lots of music while we were there. This is in one of the outlying aldeas. We went to the largest. It's called Pino. So these are some pictures as we were heading into Mass. The blue building is obviously the church. This is a picture inside the church of the altar and the main space within it. You can again see those banners up at the top. They're currently green because they're in ordinary time. They will change colors depending on the liturgical season. And then the bottom picture shows just how full Mass was once we got there. The gentleman walking down the center aisle in the left-hand picture is the gentleman who is in charge of live streaming all of their masses. Any mass that they have, he is at, and he live streams it for the community. This is twofold for homebound who are unable to get to Mass, but also for people who are living outside of the city for whatever reason, outside of the community for whatever reason, that they can still feel like they are connected to their community. After Mass, all of the homebound ministers come. They have a special satchel that you can see there. Every homebound minister had the same one. And then they had a group of 2 or 3 people that carried candles with them, and they all sang and took communion to homebound people as part of their ministry. It was kind of cool to see how uniform it was. There was definitely a process that they followed. This is the outside of Pino. As we were walking out, it wasn't so crowded, so we could get a better picture. You can see the soccer pitch there in front of church. It is all concrete, but it is where the kids play. There is also kind of like a school building up to the right-hand side off camera. You can't see it in this picture, but that's why the soccer field is there. Pino is about 90 minutes from St. Raymond's by car. It's about how long it took us to get there. It is the largest of the outlying communities, and they have had over 100 men leave in the last year to migrate to the United States for work. So there was a lot of children and a lot of women in Mass, but not a lot of men. One of the days we were there, Padre also had a meeting with all of the servers from all of the aldeas. So they came in for 9 o'clock Mass. And then after 9 o'clock Mass, they all changed into their server uniforms, which is what you can see there. Anyone who's wearing this uniform is a server. And then we had a procession through town to their own little space where they had their catechist. So in this particular space, this building that you can see, they had crossword puzzles that we did. A couple of the students enacted the play of the Good Samaritan. They had a couple of youth leaders give up and give some sermons. We were there until about noon. And then they had lunch for the servers afterwards. So this would kind of be like their version of religion class. And that kind of gives you an idea of what life within St. Raymond's is like. Gives you some ideas of some pictures. This wasn't our entire trip. After this, we went back to that retreat center, which was in the first slide, and then we went to Lake Atitlan, which is one of the main tourist attractions in Guatemala. It's also the home of the church where Blessed Stanley Rother was martyred. So that's actually what we went there for, was to see Blessed Stanley Rother's part of his remains in the church where he was, and the area where he was martyred. So that was how our trip ended. But this particular slide ends our time within St. Raymond's. After this sermon and everything was done, we did hand out a bunch of rosaries for everybody that we had collected. So it was a really good experience.